I'm hosting. Okay, so that's fine. I'm not technically moderating, but I am.
Right. It's
Okay.
exactly how it's supposed to have gone.
Yes, I can handle that. That's the way of
All right,
things.
cool. We
Okay.
got people jumping in, which is good. Welcome, everybody. Let's show you both of us so you don't just have to see Julia,
No, you don't just have
even
to
though
see
it's
me.
better to look at. But that's cool. Welcome, everybody.
All right.
This is our second stream. We're excited.
Oh, you
I'm
know what?
excited.
Well, I don't know. Maybe do you want to do a quick intro thing so I can just tweet this all out?
Sure. So, if you guys were with us last week, 2 weeks ago, we did some live composing for the upcoming game that Julia is making called the Crimson Diamond. I'm assuming if you made it this far, you probably know about it a little bit. But if you don't, it is an EGA, which means 16 color palette, typically 320 by 200 resolution, text parser. So that means you're going to need to type. And as of now, it's a PC only game, but as of in the last, I don't know, couple of days, we got somebody that's helping us out trying to get a Mac port. So it
That is, yeah.
should be both.
Chad Armstrong on Twitter. He's eating
Awesome.
Wraith, and he's been helping me port. He ported Feria Darls, which is another AGS game. So thank you so much, Chad. We've got the Mac version on itch.io and the Mac version on my site right now. It's just a quiet soft launch because we're just still working out some of the kinks. There is a Mac version available on Steam, but it's not working yet, so don't worry about that. I'm going to tweet all of the Mac stuff when it's all available, but it's in the works. So thank you so much, Chad.
Yeah, that's awesome. So more platforms, the better. And anyway, so we were working on this a couple of weeks ago. We were scoring, which essentially just means writing music for a scene in the game where the character Nancy is eavesdropping. So she's kind of a, I don't know, what would you describe her as? Like, she's not quite a peeping Tom, but she's she's like real curious, maybe a little
like
more curious than she should be sometimes, right?
A listening Lucy, eavesdropping Esther.
Yeah. So we were scoring that scene, and I actually have some of the music. I have the music called up from last time, and I'm going to play it in a little bit.
Nice.
But we were just basically giving you an insight on how that works and how to kind of set the character, set the mood with the sounds. And speaking of the sounds, very important. We're using this guy, if you can see it back here, the Roland MT32, which is a synthesizer from 1987. And it was pretty much made famous because of a company called Sierra and their text parser games, essentially. And their first game that used it, I think, was King's Quest IV, and then Space Quest, and on. And they used it for a number of years until 1991, which another format took over. Anyway, that's the sound source we're using this entire game as of now. I think right now it still has some sounds and stuff that aren't MT32, but the goal is to replace all those with MT32 effects. And speaking of which, in addition to doing some more composition today, we're also going to do some audio asset work. And that kind of, in this case, just has to do with some of the sound effects. And these sound effects help set the mood of what's going on, and they just kind of give you, it's supposed to immerse you more into the environment. Now, the interesting thing about games from 1987 versus games in 2020, a lot of games that try to look really realistic now, and some do really look realistic, they have a different type of immersion because you expect everything to look just like it does in the real world. With a game in I think the game is actually based more on a 1989 release, but a game in 1989 didn't have the luxury of all the hardware and software technological advances that we've made since that time. So a lot of things immersed you more into the game itself. The story, the graphics, obviously, the music and the sound effects. And you couldn't just look at everything all the time and know exactly what everything was. A lot of times with EGA games, especially for me, they were so kind of pixely. And I'll show you real quick. This is a little cheat. I'm showing something probably that I'm not supposed to show yet, but this is
We discussed this. We had a meeting.
Yeah, but this is really cool. So this is kind of just, I just want to give you an idea of what the graphics look like if you haven't seen it already, and kind of how the art is, just briefly how the art is made. But Julie will talk more about that at the end of the stream. And that's kind of, so you can, I think in this image you can tell what everything is, but every once in a while you have to type things, you have to be really creative and use your brain a lot and your imagination a lot to know what some of this stuff is going on in the game. So I think that helps immerse you more in some ways than modern games that are very realistic, especially modern games with a lot of dialogue where you're listening to things and you may or may not be, you know, influenced or excited about the person's voice that you hear in the voiceover. Sometimes they're amazing, sometimes they aren't. And whoops. And in a game like this, you're not going to hear any voiceover. So the voice that you hear is the voice in your head and how you picture that character speaking, right? So there's not going to be any voiceovers at any point for this game. But the music and the sound effects are a huge part of the immersion, and obviously the graphics, and then the story. So as you combine those things, you really want to have all of those things, at least as a game designer or a composer, sound designer, music editor, whatever you want to call it. You want to have all those things kind of doing the same thing. So what we were doing last week in this 2 weeks ago in the stream, we were trying to get a theme or a song that played while Nancy was kind of snooping and eavesdropping, right? So we wanted it to have a little bit of mystery in it, but not too much, because there wasn't necessarily some kind of action that we wanted you to feel like was coming. So it's the same in a movie. If you're watching a movie, the difference in a game, the player is the one playing the game and making the choices on how to proceed and where to go and what to do. And so the music in a game has a little bit more flexibility and freedom in some ways. In my opinion, you have almost more artistic license to do things in a video game that you couldn't do in, say, a movie or a short film or a TV show, or even just a song, because all of those things play from a starting point to an ending point. In a video game, and especially video games that started to use a technique called adaptive, what we now call as adaptive music. When it was invented, they were calling it interactive music. But the music adapts to what you are doing in the game. So if you are running, the music will have more energy. If you start walking again, maybe the music will have less energy. If you've alerted somebody, the music might give you a cue, or a sound might give you a cue that you've alerted someone. Or if you're in combat, then the whole music is going to change. And then after that, it comes right back down because you're no longer in combat. And all of these things happen as you progress in the game. So it's, in my opinion, it's a really freeing but also complex way to write music. In some ways, you might argue it's one of the most artistic possibilities of expression as a musician that you could possibly have, because what could be more expressive than having music that changes with what your listener, or in this case the player, is doing? I mean, there's no other music like that, you know. It wasn't an option, you know, for, say, Beethoven. He wouldn't have been able to conceive of this. Of course, if he was alive today, I'm sure he would be the top guy, but they weren't able to conceive of stuff like that. They had what they call linear music. It starts at this point, it ends at this point. Sometimes there's a repeated section. Sometimes there's repeated sections for solos if you listen to different music, jazz music and things like that. But for the most part, you're not interacting with your listener or player directly. Whereas in a video game, you're interacting directly with the listener or the player.
The Deluxe Talk says that I always liked Banjo-Tooie, where the changes based on your proximity to the entrances to the sublevel.
Exactly.
So that's exactly what you're talking about.
So there's a perfect example of well done, well executed adaptive music, and that's part of your experience. You know, you have to play that way. You have to the music as a composer, you have to write that way so that you can immerse the player in the environment they're in, right? So that's the goal here. That's why we use the MT32. As odd as it seems, it's just part of the immersion that we want you to feel like, well, I guess you'd have a top of the line computer in 1989 and set up in 1989, but we want you to feel like it's 1989. We also are trying to do things that eliminate the annoying stuff that was there in 1989, musically and game design wise and other things. But we also want to give you that immersion, like you were there, whether you were born after that, whether you were born before it and lived through it, whatever. Doesn't make a difference. We want you to have that experience.
Eden Waith says that some older, he thinks 1930s movies are a little odd because there isn't much ambient music. And we aren't actually going to have a lot of ambient music in the game, just little touches here and there, as Dan's going to get into it a bit later, called underscoring, just very spare tones, just to set a bit of a scene, and sort of feel that way too. I mean, the old adventure games at the time didn't have much music, and yeah, when you think of all those old movies, they tended not to have as much music either.
Well, some of them, the early films, the silent films, had no
Yes.
music at all, or they had only music. And then if you went to a theater back in the certain period of time, I'm not exactly sure what year, but you would have maybe a live organ player or a live piano player scoring the movie as you watched it.
Yes. Yeah,
but it was still an A to B, so you were not interacting as a listener or as a player. You were just seeing something created on the spot.
Right. A good example of exactly that is I just saw the Watchmen TV series, which is an amazing series, and there are some scenes shot in an old movie theater, which is exactly that. So somebody was playing like a piano while the movie.
Right, and that was supposed to set you into the and get you into the environment. So ideally, hopefully that piano player had seen that film enough times to know what to play at which points in the movie. But if you watch certain film composers, there's a guy called Vangelis, famous for a movie called Chariots of Fire. He does that stuff live still, and that's how he makes a lot of his soundtracks. If you ever see there's a couple of videos of him on YouTube. It's unbelievable. What we do here is a little bit different, but it's still, the goal is to immerse you, the player, the audience, into the game and have you interact with the music and what's happening.
Eden Waith says even in newer games like the 90s Doom or Zelda Breath of the Wild, one can hear monsters making noises. There's great little effects that can help set a scene. And also it's information too, because the louder they are.
Well, Doom is a good example, and my one of the other games I'm working on was made by the guy who made Doom, a guy named John Romero. And his knowledge of sound and audio and music is pretty vast. I've been learning a lot from him and, you know, his advice and what he wants and what he needs for the other video game that I'm working on called Empire of Sin, which is going to be released fall of this year. So we got a lot of exciting stuff happening in a relatively short amount of time.
And the Deluxe Talk says, are we planning on using ambient noises as well? Silence?
So
and
yes.
Yeah, go on, Dan.
Yes.
You can go into this.
I don't know if I would we're going to have all kinds of different things going on. So you'll get to see, today is going to be exactly that. You'll get to see today a little bit of all of those things. And I don't think we're going to do a lot of work with the audio assets, but I'm going to at least play for you guys so you can hear and see what those things are and, you know, kind of what they sound like and what the effects that they'll have, and you'll be able to see it. It's pretty cool. So to recap, let's see. This is the eavesdropping music that we were working on last time. And I'll just play real briefly. Hopefully you guys can hear that. And that's where we got up to. And we actually had another part before that was playing this little kind of and we'll stop that. You actually kind of, I think it kind of took away or distracted you from the scene as opposed to immersing you. Now, something I was messing with before was we have 3 parts, so we'll mute this part again. We have these 3 parts. We have a bass, kind of a horn sound, and then a pad bed kind of sound. And I was messing with the idea of maybe what if we took away the chords, the horn chords completely? What would happen? And I was like, that's kind of interesting. In this game, there's going to be different times when Nancy's going to eavesdrop on things, right? I think there's 2 eavesdropping in the scenes in the demo.
In the demo, there are actually more than that. That's why I was hoping, the priority was to do the eavesdropping stuff like we did first stream. Right. There's probably 4 or 5. I can think of off the top of my head
4 or 5 in the demo alone.
Yes.
Right. So there may be times where we want to do something with changing parts or sounds or melodies. And I mentioned him last time, but I'll mention him again because he's a really inspiring dude. A buddy of Julia and I's, Francisco Gonzalez of Grundislav Games. He mentioned to me a couple of things. First of all, he's been really helpful with this game all the way through, but I was asking him about doing some interactive music and adaptive music in Adventure Game Studio, which is the engine that this game is being built in. So if you don't know much about game development, a lot of times games use engines to build the game, and then that engine is suited for the type of game that you're making, hopefully. Adventure Game Studio obviously is for adventure games. There's other engines called Unity. There's one called Unreal Engine. Both of those are very popular, maybe the most popular engines that are used commonly. And then you also have larger companies that build their own for various projects that they need to work on. So this engine is, while it's very much suited towards doing adventure games, in some ways it's limited. Obviously, you're not going to be doing a 3D first-person shooter without a lot of challenges in Adventure Game Studio. It might be possible, but it's not the ideal engine for that. But it's also challenging for some things in music because it's semi-limiting in how much music you can have playing at once. However, in a game that Francisco did called A Golden Wake, he was able to do some interactive music and adaptive music in that game. He was able to do it in another game that he did called Lamplight City. I'm not too sure about Shardlight. I was playing that, another one of his games, last night. Excellent, excellent, excellent soundtrack. Oh, man. Unbelievable
Can I tell you that Francisco is in chat right now.
Oh, awesome.
So,
awesome.
Yeah, you got to hear all the nice things. Yeah.
Good. Well, the bad things will come after the stream's over. So
yeah,
no, I'm just
he said only mean things now. We have some other chats. So someone said,
Sure.
Edenwith said the eavesdropping sounds sort of like something from a Lost Sierra game, which is
there
awesome.
We go.
Perfect.
That's the ideal situation.
Yeah, and the Deluxe Tux was asking, is the tempo slower from last we heard it, or is it the same?
I didn't make any changes.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. Still what is that? 107 looks like.
Okay. Grandislav is saying that there's no adaptive music in Shardlight.
Okay. So, but there is in Lamplight City and there is in A Golden Wake, and you could pick either one of those games up, and it would be well worth your time and effort, and it's enjoyable, and the art is really beautiful. And anyway, enough promoting his game. We're still working on ours.
Yes.
Yeah, so the idea is that maybe we could take this. Another thing Francisco mentioned to me was something about leitmotifs, and I was like, wow, I hadn't heard that word since I was in music school. And the idea of a leitmotif is basically it is cueing you to a person or a thing that's coming at some point. There's this one little melody maybe that plays. And we talked about this last time a little bit, Peter and the Wolf, right? Each of the animals had different sounds. I can't remember which one. The duck maybe used the bassoon or something, and different instruments and different themes that they had. So that was kind of the idea. But what we could do here is kind of a modified version of that. We might be using just the same theme, but maybe we modify it so that if it's Evan that you're going to go eavesdrop on, who's the owner of the property in the mansion, if you're going to eavesdrop on him, maybe there's a certain set of instruments that we choose to use every time he comes into the game. Or if it's Margot, maybe we choose something lighter. Or if it's, let's say, Nessa or whoever. It doesn't matter. We may be choosing to make different decisions based on who's speaking or the energy. And that's another thing you could do. You could take the same theme. Let's play this again. What did I play? So I could play. It's the same theme, but all of a sudden it changes the energy that we're kind of working with, right? So it gives it kind of like a happier sound. It's really basic stuff, but you can do little things like that just to give the player an idea of, oh, okay, something's different. I hear this theme, but something's different, right? So that's kind of the idea that we're going for here. So it's, I don't know if it's quite a leitmotif. Some musicologist can help debate on that and see what's what, but that's kind of the basic idea of what we're trying, part of what we're trying to achieve. Right?
Edenwood says that he knows why the music sounds familiar now. It reminds him of some music from Ooga Booga Land in King's Quest VII. The chords sound similar.
Really? I actually never played much of King's Quest VII. I played only like the first little bit, and I remember getting stuck in the very beginning, so I never really got into it. And they had kind of gone the hand-drawn animation route versus the kind of standard, I don't know, 640 by 480 VGA colors that they've been working with for Part 6. I never really got into Part 7, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. It's supposed to be a really good game. So I'll have to check that out. But let's briefly move on. Let's see if we can do, let's do a new session. No, I lied. Let's do it in, let's do a new session.
Francisco approves of the idea of assigning each character in each or slight variation. I think it is a lot of fun. And hopefully it wouldn't be too much work, just if it's like so spare, like we're only using a few instruments at a time. And that could be something we could look into.
Yeah, sometimes the implementation is a lot of work, and you don't even realize how much work has gone into what you just kind of don't even really think about. Because the idea is you're not really supposed to think about all these things happening. We're supposed to think about it, but the player, the consumer, isn't supposed to think about that. You're just supposed to kind of notice it or absorb it or whatever and enjoy it, really. Let's see. Is this my...
Well, Francisco mentions the seventh guest, which had apparently each character had their own little theme, but maybe it might be a good one to check out.
Interesting. The seventh guest was not my favorite. It was an FMV. I didn't really touch the FMV stuff, but that's cool. I made its whole template, and I'd opened the wrong file. Okay, here we go. So before we get into doing some of the underscoring work, I'd like to quickly just talk about some of the audio assets. And Julia and I have kind of listened through a few things. So basically what I did was, it's really a lot of work, but I took the MT32, I ran it through this librarian software, and I just was going through all the sound effect patches that I could find and just recording everything. So I record everything, and we listened through, I don't know, about what, ABC worth of letters worth of different
partially
sounds.
Through C?
Yeah, partially through C. Yeah. So there's tons and tons of sounds, but we listened through a few, and we were going to talk about. Do you want to do some of the gameplay stuff so they can kind of
Yeah,
see
absolutely.
the outdoor section that you were
Yeah.
going to talk about?
I'm gonna just load this up
And
here.
I'm going to load in the sounds.
Okay. So this is for daytime outside.
Yeah, daytime outside school. Yep.
So this is fun actually because the demo, if you were to download and play the demo on or itch.io, the demo is restricted to nighttime inside the lodge, and it's after that part of the demo, the actual full game, where you get to explore not only outside of the lodge, but outside the lodge during the day and at nighttime in the night. So this might be a new thing for people to see. I do sometimes share screenshots here and there about the outside of the lodge, but people don't get to see the actual gameplay around in it. So here we are.
And here's a few of the sounds that I've recorded. These are mostly bird sounds. I didn't really get a chance to go through all of them, but I'll play you guys kind of exactly. These are just the raw, unprocessed sounds, but we'll listen to a few of them. And there, obviously, we're going to want to have more bird tweets going on because there's a lot of action happening there, it looks like. Now, let's see. There, you get a better view of it.
Ooh. See, I gotta listen to what coral mines actually sound like. I think they've got some kind of raspy hiss. We might not even be going with bird sounds for this particular scene, but
Sure.
of course in the rest of the scenery here, you're gonna get those natural sounds.
Yeah, and even, can you go back to the boathouse area?
Oh, sure, yeah.
So if you look here, obviously, you're going to just naturally think that you're going to want to hear some kind of water running and things, hissing snake birds. Gabe just said, unicorn stampede, yes. But you're going to want to hear maybe some wind is a tough one on an MT32. It's better in, these big AAA games, but it might be possible. It might be necessary, depending on what happens in the game. The water for sure, though. The water running is kind of like has to happen, right? So can you go back to maybe even one of the other scenes with the water?
Okay,
There's water
kind
here.
of the river.
Well, maybe go back to the birds.
All along.
Yeah, so go back to the nesting birds, because here's an interesting issue, right? We're going to have you can see the water there running. So we also have the birds. We also have Kimmy there. Looks like I don't know if she's taking pictures or using a magnifying glass or drinking. What's she doing?
Binoculars.
Binoculars. So she's bird watching. She's a straight up bird watcher, which is cool. And you can see the water here. So we're going to have some water sounds potentially. We're going to have some weird hissing snake bird sounds. And binoculars don't really make any sounds, but we could potentially have other forest noises. But it might be to our benefit to not have so much going on here, other than maybe the water, which is going to have to be pretty quiet, and some birds. And even though there's a lot of birds, you gotta kind of find a careful balance between playing this to, like, if there's so much bird noise and so much water noise that the player's like, after like maybe 10 seconds is like, oh my God, this is awful. I'm going to shut the sound off completely. You got to be careful. So here's an example of something that would probably have a lot going on sound-wise. So to put a lot of underscore music here, it's going to be a tough one. But let's go back to looking at some of these other bird noises. These are some of the other assets. So you might hear these in the game. You might not. We don't know yet. We haven't really gone through all of them. And then I think I played some at the end where it's kind of got some more action to it. Oh no, sorry, wrong patch. Let's play the top one. The blue one is the one that's playing now.
That's nice. I like it. Quiet, simple. It's weird looking at the chat because on my phone I'm getting Grundislav, Deluxe Tux, and Edenwaith, and then when I'm looking at the chat Twitch, I'm getting you and everyone else, like Jess and Anna,
Oh, that's they're
Nico
in.
and
I
Stan.
think they're on my channel, and Francisco's probably on your channel.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I'm on my channel looking at the chat thing, and it's just like that.
You're looking at two chats at once. You're multitasking.
I feel
That's
like
well more
very
advanced than what I can do.
now
So
it's
let's
just now
see.
I've just got yours. So unfortunately, I'm not getting.
Here we go.
I'm gonna try to get both.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do both.
So
I've got
let's
one
go.
over on the other.
Can we go back into the inside of the house? Because this is just
Yep.
a little bit of, kind of what may or may not happen outside the house. But I think the actual underscoring probably needs to happen more inside the house. Now here's a good place. Let's go back. There we go. Or maybe even like this. So you can see Kimmy's writing something in her journal, notebook, whatever. And this is where the game starts, right? This isn't the intro, but this is where you first start controlling the character in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there's a lot that I would want to put right in here because the player is already going to be thinking a lot, because there's a lot to read. There's a lot, especially if you're a new player, there's a lot to discover. There's a lot of, you're gonna have to be doing some typing and stuff. Nancy's walking some crazy circles around Kimmy. I'm sure that doesn't make her nervous at all. I would love it if somebody I didn't know that I had to share a bedroom with started walking really fast in circles around me. Anyway, so why don't you go outside the door into the hallway? Yeah, she's getting her steps in for the day.
Yeah, she is.
So now here is a good example. So at this point, you've really just been introduced to the game. So there's not a lot that I could play that I would want to have. I would want to have, if any underscoring was to happen at this point, I would want it to have a very neutral feel or a neutral sound. I would want to make you feel that there was something there, but not really make you feel one way or the other. I wouldn't want you to feel any type of feeling other than, oh, there's something here. I'm in the house. It's night. It's cool. Nancy at this point feels pretty welcome, I think, right? Would that be a fair assessment of how she feels? Yeah, Melody says quarantine workouts. I don't want to talk about that. Anyway.
Well,
yeah.
I think sometimes about the kinds of noises you hear in old house, maybe, like the house settling or creaking.
Yeah, like the house I live in has a lot of creaks and noises and stuff like
or
that.
like
knocking.
Floorboards and stuff.
Yep, all kinds of stuff like that. So you could do some of that. The difference, again, we're using an MT32 as the sound source. So this isn't exactly like high quality Foley sound design, like this is not you're not going to see this in a Michael Bay movie or something, or a Stephen King, horror film or something like that, or M. Night Shyamalan or one of them. It's not that kind of Foley work. It's really, we're trying to keep it not exactly period correct, but as close to period correct as we can get it, right? Mm-hmm. So the floorboards, you might have something here and there, but again, you have to kind of balance between annoying the player with stuff, especially if these are places, which they are, that they're going to see a fair amount. You want to maybe just kind of walk her down the hallway, just give everybody an idea. I mean, most people have probably played it. But you can see there's also, this is kind of the tutorial that's happening as she's sprinting down the hallway, trying to get her steps in furiously. Yeah, so this is kind of something you're going to see a fair amount of.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody's played Quest for Glory 2, but this hallway reminds me of the streets, the evil streets in Quest for Glory 2, where you have to kind of navigate. And I didn't even learn that there was a map to that game. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But these, it reminds me of that. There's a lot of these wooden hallways. It takes place in the Middle East with the lamps and stuff. Oh, that's really nice. See, this artwork is really, really cool and exceptional to me. That's what draws me in to the game in the first place. So what I did here, let me go back to my other composition. Let's put Julia back there. Yep. So what I did here is I kind of just set up a template with a few different instruments, because what I don't want to do is put too much stuff behind it, but I kind of gave some sounds off that, I felt like could just be present, as opposed to you really hear them like as a melody or something.
Let me turn her speed down a little bit.
Sure.
Forgot to.
She's in training to beat Usain Bolt.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, Bolt's retired now, so it's possible.
Well,
So
another thing that is an option in AGS that I didn't even really explore is
AGS
you
is
can
Adventure
have,
Game Studio.
yes, Adventure Game Studio. You can have footstep sounds, but I kind of decided against it.
Yeah, I think in this game it would just kind of be annoying, especially when she
Yeah.
does a lot of walking. You know, I feel like in games like I guess Lamplight City would be a good example where you're not necessarily doing a lot of extra walking around, where in this game you can explore every little nook and cranny inch of it by walking. It may be a little annoying in a game like this, especially with the MT32, to put a footstep each time and change, even to change the sounds. It would be pretty tough, I think. So we have to kind of balance again, using the sounds we're using, and then yeah, I don't think Francisco said he didn't think EGA games have footsteps. I doubt it. You have some. I'm thinking more like NES games that have some like footsteps. Like if you ever played Kung Fu, when you beat the level and the guy goes, he walks up the stairs after each level. But yeah, I'm not sure that there was too many EGA games that had a lot of footsteps, and even the later VGA Sierra games, I'm not sure that they did either. I know Indiana Jones did in LucasArts. And Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, that's an exceptional game too. But yeah, Francisco, you may be right about that. Anyway, back to what I'm talking about here. So I set up a template with the MT32 just to kind of get rid of this, just to kind of give us a little bit of a palette, like a painter to work with of sounds. So there's a French horn sound. These are the actual patch names in the MT32. That doesn't sound too.
I like that.
It sounds
like
interesting. It? The only problem I have with it is it's kind of intrusive, no?
They could be like bathroom sounds. They sounded a little reverb. I don't know why I would have.
Yeah, we can use them.
Sound.
Sounds a little Star Trek-y to me. Yeah, Eden Wraith is saying making sounds for steps could get messy. Is the character walking on carpet? Exactly. And that stuff, the step noises in modern AAA stuff, they put a ton of effort, into making those sounds. Like some guys might record all of those and then figure out ways to implement them using, middleware of some kind. That stuff's really, really complicated and really involved. And that's why part of why AAA games cost a lot. Everything costs a lot. So here's another sound I found that I kind of liked. There's a flute sound.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of gives us a nice little present sound. And then I know Julia's been wanting panpipes in here somewhere.
Well, they're so Northern Ontario. I don't know if they would fit specifically here. I think the lower tones are like you say, less intrusive.
But they could also be maybe more of an outside type of sound as opposed to an inside sound,
Yes. Yeah. Edenwood says just looking at the length of credits on things like game movies, etc., goes to show why they are so expensive now.
Yeah, that's what it is. These games, they're spending time and effort and a lot of money on everything, especially the larger games they expect to see a huge return on. So now here's a great little scene. I'm actually working on something for Margot to have her own little kind of music. We won't premiere that today. We're going to premiere some music at the end, but that's cool. So let's go back into the hallway and see if we can find something.
She's back on turbo.
Yeah,
she's not moody when she's like that. It's not the proper tone.
Well, this is the only way to play Stair Quest right now. Really, really super slow. So this is kind of where I would underscore things.
I'll go downstairs too.
And even just a single note like this with the right sound kind of gives you the energy of the game. But I don't want it to be too dark and brooding because it's really not, it's not a horror game, or there's not something evil happening right at this moment, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, it's a bit ominous.
Don't want it to be too ominous.
Wow.
So then here, see, she says she hears voices, so this would go into one of the eavesdropping scenes. So just walk over to like you're going to do the little eavesdropping, and then it would transition to So the more melody that I put in there, the more identifiable and recognizable melody that I put in there, the more I can potentially paint myself into a corner, because it's cool to have that stuff. Like, it's like, oh, I want to have everything be really identifiable, and I want you to sing along with it every time you hear it. The problem is I can't draw the player too far out of the immersive experience. I'm not, I'm not trying to write a top 40 song. Trying to make sure that you have an experience that's going on. See, I actually feel like, I don't know if you feel like this, Julia, but I kind of feel like in this part, let's see, this kind of gives it a little, the low sounds kind of give it a little too much dark and ominous feel. Whereas if I find something in the middle, it might be able to work.
Yeah, maybe some like upwards bits so that it's more like curious.
Just real, and really almost static stuff. So there's barely anything happening. And I'm playing, it's hard to describe this out of my head. I'm thinking of it in my head. But I'm thinking of, so if you know anything about music, I'm trying to stay away from chords that have like a major or minor tonality. So this would be a major chord, G flat major chord if I'm just playing piano, or G flat minor, F sharp minor, whatever you want to call it, chord. I'm trying to stay away from chordal tonalities. I'm trying to get just kind of an open sound. So I'm almost staying away from chords completely.
Billy Swank says, "Hey, Dan.
What's up?" So that is technically a chord of some kind, but it's not really giving you it's not really saying anything. It's kind of giving you a feeling of this, something's there, but it doesn't give you a happy or sad necessarily, right? And that's kind of the goal. So I have to be really careful with the amount of different pitches that I use. Because if I use too many, first of all, it gets busy, but also the more pitches I use, the more distracting I can get. So what I want to do is try to stay with, have F sharp and C sharp, or G flat and D flat, whichever you prefer. Excuse me, with an A flat. So let's call it flat because I'm a jazz musician. I used to be anyway. G flat, A flat, D flat, right? Those are the notes. I'm going to try to use those to make my melody. I'm not going to use anything else. That's really, really limiting. That's really, really restricting, because I don't want anything to intrude and take over. You know what I mean? I don't want things to take over the scene. So that's a possibility here. And another thing I can do is stop. You take a seat. No, I'm just kidding. And what I can do is I can use something like this as part of the score. Nice. I can use something like this as part of the score. And then I can kind of add more energy as it needs more energy. And then later, as it needs to be more in the forefront, or as it needs to give you a clue or a hint that something different is going to happen, then I can do that. So if it's going to get a little bit dark, maybe I can go there.
Mm-hmm. Musically inspired, says hey guys.
That's Brandon. What's up, Brandon?
Brandon. Oh, hey. Okay,
so
awesome.
Brandon Bloom is the composer of Mage's Initiation, and he's currently working, I mean, he's done other games, but he's currently working on another adventure game called Hero U Summer Days by the Coles Transsolar Games, and I'm excited about that. He's top notch, and he's really helped me a lot navigate this MT32 thing because it's a huge pain. But yeah, he's a great dude, and thank you for all your help, man. And thank you for being a part of the stream.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome.
So I wonder if we can record a little piece of this and see what we have. Now, the tough part is to try to decide like a tempo. And in some ways, you don't even really have to run it with a tempo. You can kind of just let it run and try to find some kind of looping point. But an interesting thing about this is I have to decide how long this music is going to happen, or how many layers I can choose to make different things happen if I want to keep it kind of on the interactive or adaptive side. So it gets really complex, but the idea for today is just to give you an idea, show you just a little bit about what this is. So I'm not going to probably spend a lot of time tediously going through and doing all the tempo changes and showing all the parts, but I would say if I was really trying to make this effective, it's going to be at minimum of 4-minute sections, maybe longer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I would think, but it's not going to be much happening in those 4 minutes, right? So I'm just going to hit record. I'm not even going to use the metronome, nothing. Can you go back out in the hallway, please, Nancy? Julia?
My pleasure.
Why are you running?
I keep setting the speed and she keeps on going back turbo. Maybe that's a bug, I don't know. Now Eden writes that Nancy is not allergic to Jordan almonds, so she'd be fine to eat one, but she's scared of how hard their shell is, so she won't, no matter how many times you try.
She'll lose a tooth.
Yeah.
And dentists and dental issues in 1915 are not what they are now. If you think they're bad now, they were worse then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nancy doesn't have a dental.
She doesn't have dental insurance?
Nope.
Was penicillin even a thing yet? When did
it's around this time. It's a bit later. I think it's
later. So you didn't even have antibiotics. So if she got a tooth infection, it was a problem. So you really got to stay away from those dang Jordan almonds. Rum and pullet dentistry. Yep. Not my kind of thing.
Oh yeah, Jess has a good point. Did insurance even back?
No, probably not. Because everything was reasonably priced. People weren't reasonably paid, but everything was reasonably priced. So now here's a good example. When I see this kitchen scene, I'm going to pause it there. So I just kind of gave a little bit of an energy, right? And this kitchen scene, I would want to change something because this is kind of, it's not necessarily like a happy or sad thing, but it's kind of an enjoyable thing, right? Like a lot of people love to cook. This guy looks like he's enjoying himself anyway. I don't know if he actually is, because I think his job is increased by a significant percentage because all these people are stuck in this mansion for the night. Who didn't they try? Don't they try to turn Nancy away right at the beginning? They try to tell her, no, this isn't a thing where you can stay for a long period of time or whatever. Isn't that part of
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
intro?
Yeah,
So
well, Albert says, well, you guys can't come, and Jack says, you know what, there's no way you guys to go. So.
right, you have no other option. So anyway, he's a little bit perturbed that he's got to do cooking for everybody, and then later, if you play through the demo, he's got to do the dishes for everybody. So I would still change the music to be kind of more enjoyable, because if you're Nancy and you're putting yourself in Nancy's shoes, which you're supposed to, her really, really speedy running shoes that she's wearing right now, dancing/running shoes, you'd probably be kind of like intrigued, coming into this kitchen and say, oh, what's for dinner? Cool, I'm excited about it. Although if you hate or not one of those people that's a foodie like myself, then you're not excited about food, then whatever. But I know Julie and I love food, so
yes.
it's all good.
Yeah.
So can you
so
go?
Nancy's hungry and it's warm here. It smells good.
Right. So she, and she's been traveling all day on the train and then on a long car ride, and now she just found out she's not even going to be able to really stay and whatever. So can you go down into the dining room? So then the dining room doesn't have anybody sitting in the dining room yet ready for dinner, but we did work on a waltz for this part. So there would ideally be a place where I can find a way to transition from either the kitchen or the hallway into that waltz subtly when the time comes where everybody's sitting down for dinner. Right? So more laps, huh? Nancy is really, really an exercise fanatic, and I think that's probably undersold in the intro.
Yeah, I realize now that I'm playing it. I think this game should be more about exercise and the mystery part of it.
So this could be more like a sports game instead of an adventure game.
Yeah, I feel like there should be a step counter, and at the end of the game, you see how many steps you took.
That's actually sickly. That's probably something that somebody would try to implement, or we should try to implement at some point. Walking simulator. Yeah. Anyway, this is the kind of things that I'm trying to put together in my head, and all of these important pieces, like the little piece we just played, the underscore. Let's play it back just a little bit. There's not much happening. I don't even know if you guys can hear it. Yeah. The Crimson Diamond 2. Miss Maple joins the gym. Now, this piece might actually work still in the dining room at this point in the game because there's nobody sitting here eating. And can you go back out into the hallway? Right. So now it transitions. You're going to hear a door sound. I'm not sure why. Oh, are you not? No, we should be hearing your sounds, right?
Oh, I turned the. Oh, well, yeah, we should be.
We should be hearing some sounds. There is going to be door sounds in these things.
Yeah, there are door sounds.
So you'll hear all those things and point noises and things like that. But that kind of worked. So I didn't need to hear a transition. The only transition I would hear is the door opening or closing, right?
Right.
All right, so can we go back to the outside scene now?
Sure. The daytime outside.
Daytime. Let's go. Or do you want to go nighttime? Because they've already seen daytime. Look at that.
Seen
daytime.
That's
a nice shot right there. Isn't that pretty much one of the postcards? One of the
this is
TCD
yes,
postcards? Nice. I have it here, back behind me somewhere.
It even goes up and over the hill.
Very nice. So should we let's look at the nighttime.
Sure. Now this is even more exciting because this is something that I don't know if anyone's actually seen yet.
Well, they haven't seen outside, right?
No. At least in gameplay. This is something that happened quite a ways away through the game. What I try to do is I try to give the sense of exploration by kind of opening up different parts at different times. So when you first get there in the demo, when you try to go outside, Nancy says, well, I'm not going to go outside. It's really dark out and I'm unfamiliar with this area, so I'm going to stay inside. But later on in the game, after you've been outside, during the day, you can actually go outside during the night at a different part of it. So you kind of get to experience the setting in different times and ways without keeping.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's load the night.
Here we go. Wait for it. Wait for it. Okay, go.
Yeah.
Oh, and there it is.
There it is. Yeah. So I don't know if this will be spoilery because it's not really like an art transition than anything else. You won't really see anything different. It's just what it is. It's nighttime versions of this. So uh, really can't really be bothered with anything that's
Anna loves it. People are liking this. They really think it looks spooky. So it should look spooky in a way, but it's not quite horror spooky again. So
Hmm.
we still have to be really careful about the choices we make here. So I would still try to keep it. I would give it the more low tone, ominous sound here, but I would still try to keep it pretty under what's it called? Pretty understated. So it's not something you're really hearing as much as feeling and experiencing. People are loving this. Did you have to redraw each scene by hand, Julia? Or was there a way
I
to
didn't.
automate it?
No, I just I shifted some colors around that.
I was
So
asking
no, I didn't.
I was asking Francisco about that the other day
Yes,
in one
because
of
he
his
recently.
streams. I said, "Can't you just use like a Photoshop filter and just call it a day?" Says you
Oh yeah.
could, but it's not really that cool.
No, it's way cooler. Like I did this, the adjustments I did by hand, and some stuff does get changed here and there, but it just basically do it. You change it a little bit, and then you see if it works, and if it doesn't work, you change.
See,
It's
you know
based
what I
around the
love is
original.
the shadows. The shadows of the
Mm.
trees and stuff like that is just cool. Because it gives you can just tell it's night. You know, you could just tell this is whoa. There's a Lizzie Borden scene right there.
The film machine goes that dithering though. Oh, the dithering is magic. It is a magical magic that EGA does.
I think you got some fans of this art style for sure.
And this whole thing with the wireframe when she walks behind, it's just a matter of I wanted to have her be able to walk around sometimes, but if you can't see her, if the house stays solid behind it, then you
What, you
play.
mean like King's Quest games?
Yeah, yes,
Hmm.
that's what I mean. Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever
That
tried to
kind of.
walk down from the wizard's house in King's Quest 3 and behind the rock and all that stuff?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's just not fair.
that's part of the reason they made StairQuest.
This. I feel like this is too scary. Like the
Exactly. So here's
yeah.
the other part about this.
Is it Camp Crystal Lake?
I don't actually know what happens in this game at this point either. Oh, you were playing StairQuest last night. You are a glutton for punishment, Eden Wraith. But yeah, I don't actually know what happens and what's all happening at this point in the game
Hmm.
because
I
uh,
probably should tell you.
no, you should tell me, but you shouldn't tell me right now,
No, no, I won't.
so I can give it a better idea of how to score
Yeah,
it. But I
yeah.
would use, I think, more brooding sounds. But I got to be careful because what Julia said is exactly the point. Well, that's a little too spooky now, right? So it gets a little spooky. Deluxe Duck says you have to wait and play it when it comes out. Yeah, I should. I'd love to hear what the music sounds like when it comes out. Yeah, so those are kind of the things that I have to think about when I'm working on parts like this. So I do want to know what's happening into the game. I want to know. We could go back to daytime.
Alright.
A maple nocturne. That's kind of cool.
Daytime outside. Daytime outside?
I'm in the wrong key. Wow, look at that. That's
Mm-hmm.
not something anybody's seen yet. The boathouse, the inside of the boathouse. Yeah. So anyway, these are the kinds of things that I have to think about when underscoring the game, and then I have to um, get the music to Julie, obviously, and let her hear it and how I'm kind of perceiving it. So in a game like this, if I have the beta version or the demo version, I can actually play it, do a screen capture put the music to kind of where I want in like a video edit, send it to her and say, hey, what do you think of this? Or we can try stuff live like this, or if we're on just a video chat or something. But that's, that's kind of the things that you have to do. Now, if we were in a game studio, like if we both worked for, I don't know, some game Sierra back in the day, there's a chance we might actually be in the same room or in the same office building, and we can just collaborate at that point, which was happening a lot more back in the day than I think it does now. I don't think many of adventure games with composers on the full projects are often in the same room as the developers, unless they are the developers themselves. And that happens from time to time. I think I'm trying to think if there's any guys that did some AGS games that did all their own soundtracks in addition to the game. I know there's a few. But yeah, that's otherwise, for the most part, all this stuff is happening remotely now. And even with larger games. Uh-oh.
Probably
We better
shouldn't
not
say
go
that.
in there. Yes. What's the game? Neo Feud? The Neo Feud game?
Neo Feud.
I think he did everything. I think he did the art and the music. I have the game. I haven't played through it yet. Anyway, so these are the type of things that I'm thinking about to do underscores. And this is a very basic version of it because, how deep can you get in a short amount of time? Because I realize we're already past our time anyway. And we still want to premiere a new piece and stuff. But these just gives you like a little bit of a taste of what it is that we do, how it is that we're trying to create the mood. And it's really a collaboration. It's not me. It's not Julia alone. It's the both of us, kind of
100%.
contributing, together. And she might say, you know what, not really feeling that. And I might say, you know what, I could do that, but what if I did this, it might work better. And that happens. And that's totally cool. That's part of the collaborative process that in music alone doesn't happen so often. A lot of times you have one guy who just calls all the shots, says, no, that's no, okay, that's it. In game development, it has to be a collaborative process unless, again, you're the only guy doing the whole game. Stardew Valley developer also did the soundtrack. That's impressive. It may also been wasn't Undertale a solo development? I don't know if he did the soundtrack as well too, but
Lucas Pope did the music for Return of the Obra Dinn.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's,
but I find I don't know anything about music, so I try to defer to as I can.
Yeah, but you do, in the sense that that you said to me a couple of times, you gave me important feedback. You gave me important feedback that said, "Oh, that sounds too dark and spooky," right? So even though you're not a composer or whatever, that that's something that's going to fit your game or not fit your game. Right? Makes sense. Yes, Roller Coaster Tycoon was a solo, but did it have music? And Roller Coaster Tycoon was done in assembly, entirely in assembly. Crazy. But yeah, that's the kind of thing. So Julia doesn't have to be a composer herself. She just has to have an idea of what it is that the mood that's trying to be set. And I think that happens with people that if you're working on a film, the director will have an idea of what mood they want, what emotions they want to evoke, things like that. Does that sound fair? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think so. I think I've told you before that I try to give you a specific, sort of as much information about what I want to achieve as possible, and then kind of leave it to you to go from there, because it's just a matter of trying to be a good team player in that way.
Yeah. And for me, in my part of the process that I go through writing music for any person, whether it's a video game, a movie, for Sean Paul, for Raekwon, I'm literally thinking of the stuff in my head before I ever get to my instrument. And I was talking about this the other day with in a music podcast that I did with Brian Funk from the Music Production Podcast. We were just talking about music in general, that I like to approach it from a standpoint of I start with everything in my head and then I let it go from there, as opposed to going to the instrument, and seeing what happens. I find it more effective that I can kind of build the thing in my mind. Even if I don't have the exact melody, I can build don't know what the way to describe it is. I can just build the feelings in my head and then say, okay, this is what I need to try to find now on the instrument. Because in a way, it's just composing is a lot of times just translating what's in your head. I think it's changed a little bit over the years with the advent of computers and the technology of how easy it is to do certain things and whatever. But I try to find these things in my head first. This artwork is nice. This is really nice to look at. So anyway, we were going to do something to change direction slightly. We were going to play a song, a new piece of a song.
Yep.
And we don't exactly know where it's going to go quite yet, do we?
Well,
we have an
I
idea,
do, but no, I don't.
You do?
I don't know if I told you or not. I think you do. You have an idea where it goes.
I have an idea. So it's a pretty cool piece. And if you've ever played The Colonel's Bequest, The Colonel's Bequest has a few songs by a certain composer. And I don't know if anybody would be able to tell on the chat what composer. This is not Diamonds here. Does anybody have an idea of The Colonel's Bequest? What composer they used songs from? Not the composer on the game, but they used some public domain music. Anybody have an idea?
I don't even know if I know this.
You know it. I know you know it. We've talked about it before.
You told me, but I forget.
Well, you know the names of the songs that he wrote.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know if anybody will get this one, but somebody should. And he was, I'll give you a hint, he was an American composer, but one of his songs evoked that it was Canadian. And that particular song is in The Colonel's Bequest along with a couple of other songs.
Which I think is awesome. I didn't even know this until you played a bit of it. And I said, I recognize that song.
Whoops, two out. Deluxe Tux got it. Scott Joplin. And the couple of pieces, you have the Maple Leaf Rag, which I just played a little tiny piece of because I can't play it anymore. I used to play it when I was a kid. The Entertainer is in there, and I think there might be some others. So that style of music is known as ragtime, as Deluxe Tux just said it on there. That style of music known as ragtime, and it fit in this era perfectly because it was still kind of like, I guess you would consider it like popular music. They didn't really have top 40 because what, in 1914, did they even have a lot of radios? Probably not. You had things like player pianos, and you had things like, you know, a lot of people learning piano and playing piano. So yeah, if you look on YouTube, you can watch videos of the MT32 score of Colonel's Bequest, and it'll have Joplin ragtime stuff. So we're going to premiere a piece that is a ragtime piece now, and I'm going to play it. Should we
that's nice.
Should we call up where that's going in the game? Mark Bennis wrote a rag for Lamplight City 2. There you go. I'm trying to think. There's a couple rags in that, actually. There's because they have those weird kind of like player pianos in Vespuccia. Isn't that the name of the town? City?
The town's called... No. Oh no, it's going to stop still here. Oh no, what's it called again? New Britain?
He played, he did a couple of different things. New Britain, Britannia, whatever.
Yeah, New Britannia.
But the whole world, I think, is Vespuccia, right? Isn't that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, there's like there's a few places, right? There's a couple. There's a piano in the rich people's house. Anyway, I don't want to get too far off. But yes, there's some nice ragtime in there too, and some nice, interesting sounds. And then there's a piano. There's a puzzle with the piano in one part of the game. I hope that's not too much of a spoiler in Francisco's games, but that's all right. Those are released. You can look it up and spoil it yourself. So, how are we looking?
Well, I hope people can't hear the music as I play this, because if we're
I'm
gonna
not
play
hearing
the
it.
bit's
I'm
gonna
not
go
hearing
in.
I'm not hearing the music.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna launch the. I guess it's the intro then, is it?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. And where do you want me to start it?
Any I didn't. Well, maybe not this first little
It's
bit.
right after
I'll
the
tell you.
fish, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you when. I'll tell you when. If you've got your like hand poised on the button.
Got it poised.
Okay. Second here. Because this part's gonna require something a little bit different. But
So yes, this is still placeholder art.
probably now. I'm trying to like press enter along with the music.
That's all right.
My problem is I'm hearing both tracks at the same time, so.
No, you're the only one. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
I'm not hearing your music. Thanks, guys. Seems like it's a hit so far with the audience.
The lower bow vibes are strong.
Oh, definitely. So here's another secret about this piece. It's actually not finished. So it ends abruptly at this point right here.
Yes.
So that's how far I've composed through it. And
loop it. It's all good.
And a cool little it suits Nancy's enthusiasm. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah, I think that's what we were trying to achieve with, first of all, Ragtime, obviously the connection to Laura Bow and just you know, that feel and this time period also, because this is what you would have heard, you know, in a house, in a bar, saloon, whatever they were called, at the time, 1914, 1915. Do we have an exact date? We don't really, right? It's just that era.
It says 1914 at the beginning of the intro, so
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. So, and we're in the fall-ish or summer?
It's like summer, late summer,
Late summer.
summer-ish.
Okay. Cool. So that kind of gives you roughly what was going on. So yeah, so ideally we'll have pieces playing through. I felt like kind of like it could be the train, and then there's also, if you have played through the demo, there's also the car ride. So either one of those parts, it would fit pretty cool. I don't know. I feel like, because this is a fairly long intro, so there may also be transitions. And if you guys have ever played King's Quest IV, that's another game with a long, like a 10-minute or 15-minute intro at the beginning of the game, all MT32 if you had one, all MT32 score that takes you throughout the intro, and it really plays like it's almost like an overture of the whole game. I don't think this game you'd want to do something like that, because you don't want to give away all the things right away at the beginning of this game, but in a way, it's hard to say. In a way, this is probably a bigger game than even King's Quest IV, you know, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think it probably is. There's definitely seems like there's more screens.
I think so. I haven't played King's Quest IV in a really long.
It's not the longest game. I think the longest point of the game and the longest point of music in the game is the intro. Like if you listen through the soundtrack, the intro is about 14, 15 minutes, and there's a lot of music, and then afterwards there's only hints of the music as you get through it. Yeah. Oh my goodness, 15 minutes intro. When that intro is over, time to save and call it a night. Yeah, I mean, this intro is long too. Don't get me wrong. We haven't.
Yeah, that is long.
We haven't made. I mean, I say we very loosely. Julia hasn't made final decisions as to, is it going to end up and stay this long? Is it going to get changed? Don't know yet, but it's definitely on the longer side. So it's supposed to set the mood. So the music is going to be an important part of this, because we want you to read through and understand what's going on, and watch, obviously, see the great art. And
it's really,
no, go ahead.
Go on, Dan, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I kind of designed the game beginning with that in mind. That a lot of them I skip through it or not watch it at all. So you don't actually have to watch this to get the story about why she's there and who she is, because the first thing you do in the demo is introduce yourself, and when Nancy does that, she tells you who she is and what she's doing there, so it kind of helps too.
Right. And you can see this is like kind of excitement, kind of, there's just a lot, and we're just trying to set the tone and set the mood of where it is, the time period, who you are, what you're doing, what's going to happen coming up to this lodge, and I guess the whole gist of the intro is to just get you from excited gemologist or future aspiring mineralogist to the point where she gets to the lodge and can go investigate this diamond find in Crimson, Ontario. Do you know how far the idea is? How far from where she started?
Well, I think when I was doing, well, she sets out in like sort of the morning or after she gets there late at night, so it's probably a good like 5 to 8 hour, I would assume, on train, maybe longer.
So 5 hours on the train plus drive plus. So she's a good bit up north from where she came from, right?
She's quite a
into
bit.
Into the wilderness, Canadian wilderness.
Yeah.
So yeah, but these are the basic things that we wanted to show you guys for this stream. And there's a couple of little things that I know Julia wants to talk about coming up that we have planned. We've been working very hard on these streams and the game, but very hard on these streams to get them right. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this one even just a little bit more than the last one. And we hope you'll join us again, because there's going to be more streams, and I'll let Julia talk about it.
Yeah. So Dan showed at the very beginning sort of the promo of what I plan to be showing in the next stream. The next stream is going to be an art-centered stream. That's where the game started to begin with. That was my inspiration, was looking at the art. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show sort of the process of building one of my background scenes with EGA and sort of considerations that need taken into account when you're designing something for this very, very limited color palette, which I love so much. But yeah, so next week, which I guess is April 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern, I will be sort of going through that process, and I hope you guys can join us. And if Dan would finally share it at the appropriate time, the forest construction, this. So it's kind of.
Sorry, I'm a bad director.
Oh no! I should have said. But yeah, this is sort of that process of building the scene which you saw today, and sort of what goes into it, and what I'm thinking about when I'm game design choices visually.
So if she's on a green screen, can't you just put whatever you want behind there?
Yeah, exactly. Why didn't I think of that? This whole game I could have saved years.
Just put in some, like, she's got a pizza in the background, or a Golden Gate Bridge, or all kinds of. Put her on the beach. It's real easy. Full motion video.
Oh my
everything.
Goodness. Yeah. What the heck, man?
Well, yeah, you could have had the art assets. You could have had the art assets done in like 20 or 30 minutes for the entire game.
So in fact, I could set it so people their own things.
Put her in space. Yeah, we could throw her in space, Jupiter, wherever. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so this is gonna be next week. Of course, if you guys want to play the demo as it is now, just with the interior of the lodge, and you get to hear dance pieces that are already in game, it'd be lovely. There's a demo on Steam. There is a demo on itch and directly on my site. And because thanks to Edenwith, Chad Armstrong, he has ported it to Mac. Still working on it for Steam, but for itch.io and on my site, you can find those if you're a Mac user. So that's kind of awesome.
It's awesome.
And yeah, I'm so happy that he's done that. I'm really excited. And my thing is, I want people, as many people, to enjoy the game.
Yeah, definitely. And Julie had said to me last night, she's like, "Do you play adventure games on a Mac?" I'm like, "Well, I played through Unavowed, which is an awesome, awesome game, entirely on my MacBook. And it was perfect because I only played that game at night, and I had the perfect mood throughout the entire game. It was great." But yeah, I love to play. I'd love to play adventure games on a lot of different platforms because they're so light and easy to run. Like, what is this? About 75 megabytes or something like that?
Yes, this is 75, which is already bigger than most were. And I'm not saying that it's because there's a lot more in it. It's just because technically I'm not as neat and tidy with the programming and every other aspect, as well because there is the music and stuff.
Yeah, the music and the sound
We're adding,
effects take a lot of space up. If we were
yeah,
using MIDI, it wouldn't take up nearly as much space. But
yeah.
75 megabytes in terms of a game released in 2020 is like a joke. It's nothing. Nothing. I mean, you
Yeah.
download, good lord, you download one of these games, it's 40, 20, 30, 40 gigabytes. So
Oh yeah.
this is
Yeah,
downloaded before you can think.
I mentioned on the Game Wisdom, the live stream I was on, that our Facebook app updates on our phones are like 250 megabytes. So
Right.
yeah.
That's small. Like sometimes the when you try to like update the iOS software on your iPhone, that's over a gigabyte. So
Yeah.
it's way more. This is nothing comparatively speaking to modern games released. So
I love that about it too, actually.
please insert.
Really,
Anna said, please insert disc 132.
yep. I have that gag in this game somewhere too.
Good.
Probably show it.
Nah, you can't
we
show.
can
We
end
gotta
on
hide
that.
it. We gotta hide it. We gotta let them find their own Easter egg.
Oh, fine.
So let's go back. Do you want to share back your screen so we can see
sure.
you again?
Yeah.
And we can just say, listen, we want to thank everybody for watching, and please tune in next Tuesday to watch Julia do her thing on the art stream. I think it'll be really fun.
Yeah. Art while you watch. Beginning to end, I'll scene. Well, I was kind of thinking of doing it kind of Bob Rossian, where you have a happy little tree and
let's
dip your paintbrush in the titanium white and the rest.
I mean, look, that's what you got in the two corners, right? You got the scenes that Bob Ross would have potentially painted, no?
Yes, those were a group of 7 pieces, but close enough. Yeah. Hey, Sam Tacky, to see you.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, I appreciate everybody for watching, and stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to both of our channels, and also I'm going to send this recording to Julia, and it'll be available on her YouTube channel, and I'll probably edit down some highlights. I know I have some highlights that I'm going to edit from last time for my own channel. So if you want to follow Julia on Twitter, what are the 2 Twitter handles?
Yeah, just my name, Julia Minata, and in the bio, my profile bio, my personal find.
Yes, and you can find the game on demo on Steam. You can find it on itch.io. Shortly, you'll be able to find the Mac version of the demo on both those platforms as well. Is one up? One's up already, right?
Yeah, on itch and on my personal site, my thecrimsondiamond.com, you can find the Mac version. The Steam one is a little bit trickier to put up there, so that Steam will play nicely with it, but we'll have to have that up shortly too. And when I have them all ready and up, I tweet and share on Facebook and everything. So if you guys are Mac users or know a Mac user that you think might enjoy it, then yeah, I'll definitely announce it.
Nice. And your YouTube is what?
Yeah, it's well, if you just enter in my name, probably search bar on YouTube, the channel should come up. I've got like a /C/Julia Minamata. That's sort of my YouTube. I can put it in the
yeah, we'll put it in the chats, and then we'll put it up on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever, Instagram, wherever you found it. Found the link in the first place. And if you want to follow Julia on Twitch, if you're not watching on her channel already, she is @_Maple Mystery. And if you're watching on her channel and you want to see me at some point, which probably be in a couple of weeks back with Julia, it's twitch.tv/DANPOLICAR, my name. And the same thing for my YouTube channel. YouTube, I believe, is just YouTube/Dan Policar. Yep. There's Julia's YouTube link, and this will be available on the YouTubes and when we do another stream. So thank you guys for watching.
Yes, thank you so much.
Till the next one.